first thing is that this year is a big year of celebration for the 10th anniversary of the passing of the New Zealand Sign Language Act, 060406, we all know that date. And this year, both Putu and I went to the Sign Language Awards in Wellington, a very big flash event held at Te Papa just 2 weeks ago. And it was great to see the recipients of the Sign Language Awards, particularly not just the deaf community who have done outstanding things, but also members of the hearing community who are finally starting to get the message about needing to operate their businesses or their schools or their organisations in a more inclusive way, and including sign language as part of their business. So I thought that was a really good celebration. One of the recipients of the awards was Nirvana, who you probably all know, and I was reminded when I saw her there that she was my first ever sign language tutor when she was a student at Linwood College. She started my first venture into learning sign language. That was quite a long time ago because she's not a high school student anymore. But she was one of the recipients, so that was really good. Also in Parliament during Sign Language Week, New Zealand Sign Language Week, we had interpreters for all of question time, which was really good. And this year, for the budget speech on Thursday, we also had New Zealand Sign Language interpreters signing the budget. So I don't know if any of you saw that on TV, but if you didn't see it on TV, you can watch it on replay, I think. I don't know what number or whatever, but someone who's more knowledgeable about TV channels than me will know. Evelyn knows. She can explain it. But that would be quite good if you want to support the use of sign language in Parliament, is to watch the budget with the sign language interpreters. The other thing about Sign Language Week, as well as the celebration, was that it was a reminder to me of how much more we have to do. We still haven't made a lot of progress in access to New Zealand Sign Language interpreters. We still have consistent calls of frustration for people who, even in government departments and agencies, can't get access to sign language interpreters. That's bad, it's wrong. We made sign language an official language so that we would remove these problems, and particularly with access to information, but we're not there yet. So we have to keep pushing for better access to interpreters, and we also have to keep pushing for captioning. We don't have nearly enough captioning in New Zealand. You all know that better than anyone. My select committee went to Australia recently on an exchange. So each year there's one committee of Parliament, 1 out of 12, goes to Australia for 5 days. And another committee from Australia comes to New Zealand. We have to put in a bid for what issues we would be looking at in Australia that's relevant to our committee. And our committee won this year. Yay. So we got 2 days in Sydney and 2 days in Canberra, and one of our topics was looking at captioning. I am really ashamed to say that Australia is far, far, far ahead of us in captioning than New Zealand is. Does anybody here think that Australia should be ahead of us in anything? It's just terrible, but particularly in captioning. So we learned a lot about how they do it and why they do it. You know, what was the trigger for them to get better captioning, and I hope that the things that we learned in Australia we can make better use of here. So please make that a push for the Deaf Society in Canterbury, because it's a big issue, I think, for us to break down more barriers on TV, on news broadcasts, in movies. As many places as we can pull levers to get captioning on, we should be doing it. At my select committee, we have a petition that's just been delivered last week calling for better captioning. And I have also put back to my committee the terms of reference for an inquiry into captioning. So we can use the petition to really drive some recommendations for change to the government about captioning. So here's hoping that we have some success, but when that petition is being heard, which will be within the next month or so, I'll be writing to you and asking for you to put in submissions. It's really important that members of Parliament hear why we should change things from you. So you can tell the Select Committee what a difference it would make to your life if you had captioning. We don't know that. The members of the Select Committee are all hearing, they watch the TV, they go to the movies, they never think about captioning. You need to make it real for us. So that's an important challenge that I want to give to you. You know the difference that you have made in the past with things like the relay service and making sign language an official language. So this is the next big challenge for us, is captioning. So let's focus on it and make some progress. The next thing I wanted to talk about is that... Oh. Okay. Okay.
I just wanted to say that here in New Zealand, we are behind. In Australia, I went there 2 years ago, and I was living in Brisbane with my daughter. We went out for a coffee, and we bought a coffee. We were sitting down, we had some cake. It was lovely. And she said, "Look, look." And I was like, "What?" And I was shocked to see there on the news, on the TV, there was captioning. I was shocked. It was very good. And New Zealand, there isn't. We don't see that, you know, in Parliament. And we both just sat there and we were able to watch it, and it was just wonderful that we could see what was going on in the world. In New Zealand they don't do that, but that is in Australia what they do. We don't see it here so much, so it was great to see that there. So I would love to see it brought to New Zealand. Thank you.
So that really reinforces the point I made, that it's not just because Australia's ahead of us, but there should be an incentive for us to do better. But we are really letting deaf and hearing impaired people down by not giving them access to all the information that's available and all the entertainment that's available. I would find it very frustrating if we decided to have captioning just for emergency items or news broadcasts of some great import. We should aim for proper quality of life, and that includes all our movies. All our movies should be captioned. They are in other countries. In fact, when New Zealand imports movies, they take the captions off them when they bring them in. That's a bizarre copyright American thing in the main. But we should be able to get around this, or just recaption them ourselves. So don't go for a narrow thing, go for a whole quality of life. You should be able to go to the movies like everyone else and follow whatever it is on at the movies, whether it's good or bad, rubbish or not. your choice. You pay the money, you should be able to see the movie. Okay, so the next point I want to make is the fact that the Minister for Disability Issues has recently announced a review of the New Zealand Disability Strategy. Do people here know that? Okay, so not very many people knew that. I don't myself think that it's been very well advertised, but it's really important that people have a say into what is in the disability strategy and make sure that there is a proper, clear pathway for holding the government to account for implementation of the strategy. That's what's missing at the moment. When the New Zealand Disability Strategy was first introduced in 2001, maybe? 2001, 15 years ago, it had annual reporting to Parliament for every government department and agency on what that department had done to implement the strategy. So every year, each department had to write a formal report to Parliament to say this is what we've done to further the strategy's implementation. So So you could pick up that document and you could say, oh, Ministry of Education says it's done this. That's quite good. Next year they've done a bit more, next year they've done a bit more, next year they've done a bit more. Or you could say, what a lot of rubbish. They were being held to account to the public for what they did to implement it. So when we had a change of government in 2008, guess what happened? No more reports. No more public accountability. So that's a key piece of the strategy, not just what's in it, but what is being done to make that real? What is being done to implement the strategy? So if you get involved, and please, I really encourage you to get involved, make sure you put that as one of the recommendations. We don't want to let them off the hook. The idea of a policy decision is to make sure it happens, and it won't unless you have some process of reporting. Okay, two more things, or three really. The next thing is that this year it's local body elections. So you will get to vote for your community board representatives, your city councillors, your mayor, district health board, and half the regional council. We get half a vote this year for the regional council. You get to vote for half of them, the other half are still going to be appointed by government. So I would like to challenge the Deaf Society here to invite people who are standing for those positions to come along to a session like this, maybe on a Friday night, whenever suits you, and ask them what they are going to do for you. Ask them what their policies for inclusion are. Ask them how they are going to make Christchurch a better city for deaf people. And then, if you get a good answer from one of them, make sure you vote for them. Because we want people who are on our community board and our council and our district health board, our regional council, to know about every person in our city and make our city better for everyone. So I'm happy to help organise that if you want, but I think it would be a really good thing for you to do. I think you'd be very excited on a Friday afternoon if you thought on Friday night at the Deaf Club you would have a whole lot of politicians talking to you. That would be quite exciting. Yeah. No? Yes, yay! But it would be really good for more of those people who are standing, saying they want to represent you, to know what your issues are. So please take up that challenge if you can. Two last points. I think this building is fantastic. And I just want to acknowledge again, Greg is the president and the staff here who made this building possible. I drive past here a lot, and so often I see people outside on the footpath, or people coming in, or people leaving. It feels like it's being really well used, and I hope it is. I think the opportunity to have a place to meet is really important. It's more so for us in Christchurch, given what's happened over the last few years. A lot of people are still feeling isolated. And if people are in a house that hasn't been fixed properly, or they still can't find a job after their job was lost, or they're just having some other troubles in their life, having somewhere to come and meet and talk with people, have a good time, it's really important. It helps make people be able to get through the hard times. And we've had a lot of hard times in Christchurch. So looking after each other, but having a place to do that is really important. So I'm just so delighted with this building. It's almost better than the old one. It's great. And it's in a beautiful spot. Really nice to get to here.